So the title of the next section is Striking Out on Your Own or Within an Organization. A lot of us during our careers have got elements in us that say, hey, I'd like to be an entrepreneur, but I really like a bigger company, so is that possible? And other people say, I really don't want to work for a company of any size at all. I want to be out on my own. And so the panel we have assembled today will give you some insight into those two sort of flavors within whether you want to be an entrepreneur is the concept within a larger organization. An entrepreneur, obviously, that's more commonly known. So let me just introduce the panel members. Dr. Alan Kane is on the left over here. He's the president and founder of Innovative Technology Applications Company. He has been in that business, being the president and founder for a number of years, some 15 years now. Prior to that, he did work at the Boeing company, so he has a number of different experiences within his experience set that he'll give us a little talk on and tell you how he has progressed through that. He's written a number of papers and has a number of patents, so he's a very innovative type of individual. The second panel member is Ms. Jane Hansen. She has over 35 years of experience in both engineering and management. She's currently president of HRP, and she'll tell us a little bit more about what they do. Previous to that, she did work at Northrop Grumman, so again, has got a broad range of experience within both large and small companies. Brent Hofstadt is an also panel member. He's been in the aerospace business for a long while as well, working with both in the Boeing Defense Company. So again, another large aerospace company. And he did, while he was with Boeing, launch several innovative groups within Boeing, and he'll tell you those experiences and how that came together for us. And our fourth panelist is, let's find it here, is Dave Mitchell. So Dave Mitchell on the end there, not last but not least sort of thing. So Dave has worked in the field of flight dynamics. He's worked 17 years in large companies with systems technology. He's also spent 17 years, I think it was a balancing thing, in a small company, and then ended up going and being his own entrepreneur. So he has sort of the large, small, and entrepreneur at the same time. So what I'd like to do is give each one of them, 5 to 10-ish minutes, as I think is the protocol. To tell you a little bit of their story. We'll hold all the questions till the end. I've got a couple of questions I can seed the discussion with at the end, but it would be much more meaningful if we could get the questions to the panel members that you guys think, not what I think, because I already know what I think. I don't know what you guys think. So let's go with what you guys think. So first, let's lead off. The order is slightly different than what's in the book. We're going to ask Alan to start us off, then Jane. Dave will follow that, and Brett will follow up as the last speaker. So, thank you. Alan?
Thank you. I have just a couple slides. I'm not going to consume much time. Hopefully we can leave most of the time to let you ask your questions. I'll give you a little bit of indication of my background. After I finished graduate school, I went to the University of Notre Dame as an assistant professor. I spent 5 years there. From there, I went to McDonnell Douglas Research Labs. The labs ceased to exist after I was there a few years. I moved over to the aircraft company, and while I was at the aircraft company, they had me serve in multiple roles simultaneously, working as a corporate team leader for active flow control and also the St. Louis focal point for acoustics. And initially when I moved over, I was a principal technical specialist, and then I was promoted to associate technical fellow. And while I was at McDonnell Douglas and it became Boeing, I was also an adjunct associate professor and then an adjunct professor at St. Louis University, and spent about 6 years, I believe, teaching classes, but eventually my travel schedule made that just a little bit too difficult, so I had to give that up. I founded Hightech in 1999. It's a very small company. We work with a lot of different universities around the country. My motivations have been doing research and working with people. And to me, both of those things are critical in the ways that I spend my time. Qualities that I think have made things work for me has been a drive to accomplish objectives and a willingness to learn from my mistakes.
Could you see if you can speak into the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or use the handheld. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, learning from my mistakes. And
Speak in the microphone.
recognizing the abilities and contributions of others, I think has been the biggest thing, to work with people and recognize what they're really good at and give them credit for what they do, give them credit for what they're doing. I think that's been a really powerful thing for me. Launching Hightech was something where you had to make a decision about accepting financial insecurity. There have been some large ups and downs in terms of income and revenue. There's a career risk. You don't know for sure what the opportunity is going to be. And it's really important to know what the family's willing to accept in terms of both financial and personal support. I'd like to mention a few key decisions for me and why they were key decisions. For me, maintaining control of the work that I've done over the years and the kinds of things that I could spend my time doing was always very important to me. And the way that I've always been able to maintain that control was to bring in outside funding. So that happened from the time I left graduate school as an assistant professor. I did that also at McDonnell Douglas and Boeing, and obviously at Hightech, at a small company, you have to bring in outside money. But I maintain a sense of urgency to keep things going. And maybe a little bit of an unusual decision that I've made over the years is repeatedly accepting lower financial reward to again maintain control of the direction of the things that I was doing and the organizations that I was involved in, the things that were going on there. And finally, to help others achieve their goals has really been invaluable for me. When I was at McDonnell Douglas and actually even before that at the University of Notre Dame, working with students, it was always important to find out what the people I was working with wanted, what they wanted out of their experience, where they wanted to be in 5 years, what they wanted to do, and to help them achieve their goals. And I think that pays off in a major way in people being willing to help you achieve your goals as well, if they know you're doing things to help them. So with that, I'll sit down and let the others go through their slides.
Okay.
Just from the angle, maybe. So my name is Jane Hansen, and my company is HRP Systems. I didn't put my contact information on the last page. I realized that when May was saying earlier, but it's on the front page. That's exactly what I was going to say. But it is here, so it is there. But she's right. Having it at the end as well is a really great idea. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about HRP Systems. We do primarily avionics kinds of work. So the computer systems and guidance, navigation, and control. We were established in 1991 in Southern California, and we qualify as a woman-owned small business, which sounds like you might get opportunities, but not so much. You know, I mean, yeah, everyone has small business set-asides, and everyone needs to have, you know, SBA and women-owned, but that's really not how you're going to get business. DoD facility clearance, that's a whole nother level of intricacy that comes into play, and I'll talk about that a little bit. Our key personnel have worked together, and again, we do system design, software, simulation, those kinds of things. The nice thing about what we've been doing, and again, avionics and propulsion, I think a lot of the subsystem concepts, we've been so blessed to work on aircraft systems, spacecraft systems, launch vehicles, rockets, missiles, instrumentation, so all of those kinds of things. So every day is a different day, and every project gets to be a little bit different, and you get to apply. It's interesting, spacecraft programs back in the day, because it was such a big thing and it was a 10-year development, and once it got on orbit, it wasn't like you could bring it back to fix it, where with an airplane, you know, the pilot comes in and goes, hey, this isn't working right. So the spacecraft people were always a little bit behind the aircraft people, and so getting to work on all these different programs, you get the opportunity to apply what you've done in one area to another area, and people think you're brilliant. It's lovely. One of the other key things that HRP Systems has done is that unlike, I think, the previous person, we don't have any specific, like, huge technical expertise that someone says, I need an expert, and that person right there is the expert of the day. We really kind of are jacks of all trades. And so what we've done is made ourselves an integral part of a team. So when I'm working for Northrop Grumman, or if I'm working on F-35, I meld in and be part of their team, and that's been something that's worked really well for us. For myself, again, HRP Systems has been around since 1992. I've worked for Microcosm, which is a small company that does spacecraft and launch vehicles. Worked at Northrop, at TRW. I've done a lot of AIAA work as well. So in my job at HRP Systems as president, what are my responsibilities? You can see there's a myriad of things. You think that as an engineer, you're technical and you're going to be able to do your work. But in fact, as the owner or president of a small company, you need to establish strategic leadership and vision. You need to know what you're going to do. You have to do risk management, long-term commitments, capital investments, getting employees or not, using consultants. Financial health, again, getting outside funding is always an interesting issue. And then there's taxes and capital assets, and when do you take out loans? You have to negotiate contracts, so you have to know a little bit about, you know, labor rates and what are the commitments there, and how do you negotiate a contract. Again, the clearance, the facility clearance kinds of issues. In big companies, there are groups of folks that do those jobs. Here it's me just putting on a different hat, and today I'm going to be the facility officer. So it's just, you know, you have to be aware of that. Program management, again, scheduling, all those kinds of things that sometimes aren't as much fun. And then technical support, you know, that's the part that you thought you were doing when you became an engineer, and yet that is just one of many things. So in a small business, you will wear many hats. You will empty the trash, you will sweep the floor, you will do your accounting, you'll do everything that needs to get done because nobody else is standing behind you to do it. Part of the way to get work is to get known. And your past work and your past relationships are critical. It is amazing. Every job that we've ever gotten in 25 years has come from someone that we've worked with in the past who either calls us back, goes to a different company, or knows someone who's having an issue and says, oh, I know the guys that can help you guys do that. So getting known, keeping relationships, huge, huge in getting out there. Networking, and again, going to conferences like this, AIAA meetings, local or national, not just conferences, and getting involved in Toastmasters, Chamber of Commerce, those kinds of things. Marketing is another interesting thing. You have to make your own business cards, you have to make your own capability statements, you have to have your own proposals. You know, you need to be part graphic artist as well as engineer. And then another way to get known is through publications, writing chapters in books, writing a book, publishing papers. But business is personal. It's always about who you know and who knows you, and that's the best way to get business. So finally, striking out on your own what's important. It's really important that you have a plan. You need to have a vision, a goal, objective. You don't just say, I think I'm going to go to work for myself tomorrow, because that's, the same thing with getting your message across. It's hard to know when you've achieved that because it's so broad. So you need to determine a specific area of expertise and what type of business are you going to do. You need to understand and establish mechanisms for funding. And tragic as it is, when you get a really fun engineering job and it's a year long or 2 years long, you put your head down, you're doing the work, it's really great, you look up and there's no new work. So you have to always be worrying about where the funding's going to come from. Also stated previously, you need to be ready to invest money and time. How much are you willing to risk? Because it is a risk. You have to generate information, marketing, proposals, publications, and you need to reach out to folks all the time. Any place where you can reach out and network, you've got to be doing that. So but the main key to being successful, I think, is to do something you enjoy. You're doing it all the time. When you start a business, it is 24/7. And so if it's not something you like, it's not going to be pleasant. You need to keep your sense of humor, really, because things happen. And you just have to go with it and figure out what to do next. And you need to really work hard and be ready to work hard. But in the same voice, let me say, you also need to play hard. If you're just working, you're going to get burnt out, and then you're worse off than if you hadn't done it. So that is my introduction, and I will step away.
Great, thank you, Jane.
Well, the good thing about going third, if I went fourth, it's even better. Everyone else would have said what I was going to say, and I could sit down again. But let me say a little bit different because I am by myself, a sole proprietorship. I'm not a corporation, not an LLC, not an LLP, or any of those three-letter acronyms. Operating by myself is a challenge, much as Jane just highlighted. I've got to do all of those things as well. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about facilities security office because I can't get that by myself. But I started out 17 years of work for what I call the large company, Bob, so it was kind of an inside joke because it was 60 people. But to me, that was a big company. And I got tired of all the bureaucracy of a 60-person company. And went to work for a smaller company, 3 people, for 17 years. And now for 5 years, I've been on my own. So if you do the math, 17 years with 60 people, 17 years with 3 people, I got 12 years to go by myself, and I don't know what happens after that. I'll be 78. Maybe I'll retire. We'll see. I'm having too much fun to retire. So some of the things to realize, I'm not a consultant. If you're going to set up a sole proprietorship, one of the worst words you can use in some circles is consultant. It carries a negative connotation. It shouldn't, but it does. I had an experience once talking with a longtime consultant who said, I'll give you the secret. He said, here's how I make $500,000 a year. When you get a customer, don't give them everything. Hold some information. They have to keep you around. That's how you make money as a consultant. So I took his words to heart, and I did the opposite. I give what they want. You find out they need more. They go, hey, this is the right person. Or as Jane mentioned, someone else finds out, hey, that's the right person. Let's call on them. I'm turning away work. I've been turning away work since I went off by myself. So it's working pretty well. The bad news, I have 0 employees. You know those times you find the grunt to plot the data that you just got from an experiment? I don't have a grunt. My son's a college student. I've used him some. That's as grunt as it goes. So that's the bad news. The good news is you want to go traveling, you want to make the conference, you don't have to go ask for permission, other than from your wife, so I just brought her along. It was pretty easy to solve. But the bad news also is you don't get paid when you're here. Some company's not paying you to be here. I'm sure some of the other people here are suffering the same issue. But you got to go out and get your own taxpayer identification number, CAGE code, NAICS code, SAM.gov registration, all the stuff that a company would handle for you, you got to do yourself, especially when you start out. There's a lot of that kind of paperwork. Not imposing, but if you're going to do prime work with the government, you have to have a lot of those items in place. Jane mentioned it, and I'll echo it, networking is critical. These kinds of conferences, I've never had anyone walk up. I've been going with AIAA since I joined in 1972. AIAA is a student member. Never had anyone walk up and go, here's a contract for you. It's never happened. But I've got a lot of people here for whom I've done work. And it's been contacts. not direct, indirect. Hey, I remember you. We saw a paper you gave. We want to talk to you about it. Come on in. Let's discuss it more. So networking definitely does pay off. One of the things also, again, Jane and I should have worked together on the slides, and like I said, I could sit down. Passion is one of my favorite words. Have a passion for what you do. Care for what you do, and it'll go well. I keep telling my son that as he's struggling through college. Have a passion for what you want to do, and it will go well. You may make no money, but you will love it. And if you love it, you'll make money. It works that way. You'll be successful because you have a passion for it. You'll make things work. On the other hand, if you're going to strike out on your own, one of the important things is plan for success and plan for failure. How long will you go? How bad will it get? How much money do you have in the bank? When are you going to hit your retirement funding? When is your spouse going to go, stop spending our money? You've got to have some idea. How far will I go on this if it's not going well? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not shameful. It's just it didn't work. Try it again another time. Go a different direction. And so what I want to wrap up with is after my working in the industry since 1977, one of the things I try to do is get words of advice from sage words from philosophers. And there's one person I follow a lot. He was a very wise philosopher, sage, writer, has some excellent books out. He's passed away a few years ago. He was also a decent basketball coach, a guy named John Wooden, and you might have heard of him. One of the things he said was, make each day your masterpiece. And that's what I would leave you with. Make each day your masterpiece. It doesn't mean it's your best, but at the end of the day, can you say, I did well today. Things went well today. My customer was happy. I was happy. My spouse was happy. My kids were happy. Something works for you as a masterpiece, then you succeeded that day, and everything will work out for you. So thank you.
Okay, Brett?
All right, thanks everyone. Thank you to Bob, all the panelists. I've loved to be here to learn from all of you. And that's why I'm going last, so I can benefit from all of their knowledge standing on the shoulders of giants. I hope you're ready. I'm going to give you what I really want to be the inside scoop for being an entrepreneur within an organization or an intrapreneur. And that's what I set out to do within Boeing when I worked there. Actually, well, I should have said it's just a big aerospace company with the emphasis on the B, but you know who I'm talking about. All right, so let's go. Hope you're ready. Do we need entrepreneurship? I think a lot of people have fear when we work, right? We want to do something different, unique, something bold, but we're afraid we might get fired if we're an employee, right? We're afraid to do things without asking for permission because that's what employees usually do. We get told what to do, right? But as you heard from these people, the entrepreneurial skills they need in business, they really are now what we need within companies. And are there any managers here in the room, people that have direct reports? Some? Okay. Would you rather have somebody who has a job mentality, employee mentality, or would you rather have somebody who cares about the business, who thinks like an owner, who thinks what would they do if they owned the company, right? That gives you more vision, it gives you more purpose, it gives you the broader perspective that you need, I believe, that we all need in the companies. And even more so today, we are in charge of our own careers. We own it, and we need that attitude ourselves, right? So I believe the most important thing you could do as an individual is take ownership of your career. And that means thinking like an entrepreneur for yourself, even if you're working within a company. And I believe with the way the trends are going now with outsourcing, right, more people who are temporary workers or part-time or contract workers, these are really the skills that we will all need now in the future and more so. Right, so some of you, if you're in big companies, you might have some kind of like high potential program, right? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Have those? Okay. So this was something that I knew about in my company, and I just looked at it with yearning for many years. I thought, how can I do this? This looks great. It just looked like a golden ticket, right? to advance. But in my site, there was only like 10 people across the site of 5,000 who got into this program. So 10 people out of 5,000, that's very bad odds, right? What about the rest of us? Because we were kind of like this. Right? That's how I felt. It's like, ugh, how do I get in that program? So does anyone relate to this? Maybe you see opportunities out there? All right. Well, so I eventually figured out, well, I'm going to just learn about this program. What is it? And it turns out these people, they had to pick their own projects. They didn't get any more money for being in this program. They got paid the same. They also didn't get any break from their assigned job, the work they're supposed to be doing. They still had to do all of that. And then they had to find a sponsor within the company, like an executive, to sponsor their project. They had to do that. That wasn't given to them. They had to organize their own team, figure out who am I going to work with. That wasn't assigned to them. So it really was an entrepreneurial experience, but I realized I actually don't need their program. If I want to do these things, I could do it myself. So that's what I did. And the project I picked for myself was 3D printing. Because at the time, we didn't have a 3D printer yet at our site, and I thought, this is ridiculous. Other companies are using this technology, we're falling behind. So I made that my project, and then I basically decided I'm going to figure out how to get it here. So that meant finding a sponsor for it. It meant figuring out where would it fit within the organization. And what I learned was a big part of innovation is actually not the technology, it's figuring out how to make it work within your business or your company or your environment. And after that, it was successful. Within 6 months, we actually had a 3D printer printing out parts at our site. And then I learned from that, used it to help other people. And one example was a room that we set up for people to innovate. And the fellow you see there flying an airplane, he was a person who also became an entrepreneur. And so he helped develop this program here, this aircraft. It was a DARPA competition. And working together as a team, he went to executives and he knew about this proposal. And he said, well, let's actually build something to demonstrate our concept. So by the time that we submitted the proposal for that program, they had actually designed, built, and flown this aircraft. And we were the only company that submitted a proposal that had gone that far with our product. And that was a key factor in winning the proposal. So it obviously paid off big dividends for the company, having this entrepreneurial attitude. And it paid off great for him. He got to work on a project. And in fact, with another proposal he made, he was able to win funding from within the company that gave him an entire team of people with a large budget to manage. He became a project manager, all by not by himself, but basically outside of his normal job. And he didn't have to work through that formal program either, but he figured out how to do it. So there are a lot of opportunities. I believe our business leaders are looking for people who are willing to take those risks, take those initiatives. And so that's what I'll give you a little more information about here real quick. And then after I left the company, I've done some other entrepreneurial things. I put out a book a couple years ago, How to Be a Rocket Scientist. That's another great thing you could do if you're looking for a project. You don't need anyone's permission now to write a book, right? You can just do it yourself, put it on Amazon, and there's no better way. We talked about marketing yourself, building a reputation, building credibility. Well, I wonder, maybe there's some people sitting in this room who are thinking, I have enough in myself to write a book. And maybe it's not being an expert in something, maybe it's an entry-level topic, but I bet there could be a need for the top guide to being an entry-level engineer, right? Maybe we need that kind of book, and you could be that person. And then that makes you someone who companies would say, wow, this person really knows how to be an entry-level engineer, and it's because you wrote the book on it. Something to think about. All right, so here's 7 keys I believe are necessary if you want to do this within a company. Number 1, practice superior defense. Now, I mentioned we all have fears. I had fears, what's going to happen? Could I get fired by doing this? Well, the way to prevent that is to do basically a kick-ass job with what you're supposed to do. Don't give anybody a reason to complain. Don't give your boss or manager a reason. Don't give your coworkers reason to complain about you. Have a great attitude, deliver, perform what you're supposed to do, and you need to have that defense for yourself. Number 2, gain an intuitive orientation about your business, which means understand what happens around you with your job, how it fits into the organization, but also have an orientation that matters to the executives, to the leadership. So that means, what are your company's or organization's values? What are their strategic goals? And what are their objectives? Because whatever project you work on, whatever you do, it must align 100% with that vision and with those values. And that also gives you defense when somebody says or asks you, if they find out, well, why are you doing this? Why are you working on this? You can point to your mission and your objectives and say, well, look, this is our goals for the company, and there it is. It lines up perfectly. Third thing is be curious. Have a growth mindset, which means have a learning attitude, always be learning, and we've heard that from other people here. Everything you do is an opportunity to learn from it, even when you fail, and there will be failures. You cannot assume everything will succeed. And related to this closely is to take an experimental approach. And I think we're good at this. We have an advantage with a scientific mindset, and a great approach for this, I found a very powerful book, was The Lean Startup. Now, anyone here familiar with lean manufacturing and lean principles? Okay. And has anyone heard of the Lean Startup? Somebody has? Great. Basically, Lean Startup is applying lean methodology, which is eliminating waste, with entrepreneurial process and startups. So how can we eliminate the waste from doing things entrepreneurially? Fantastic book. So I use that to decide how I would work and learn with what I did. Fifth thing I recommend is to practice what I call stealth project management. And that means deciding actually you're going to be a project manager to do something, to run a project, but you have to understand when you need to go public with it, so to speak, and when you have to keep it under the radar, or under the water, or under the surface. And this is a challenging skill to learn, but here again, it's basically protecting yourself, minimizing the risk, because one of the books I read had a great phrase, it's corporate antibodies, and they are out there, right? And they exist for a reason, like antibodies in our body, right, to protect against invaders, things that might be a threat to the system. And if you're trying to strike out on your own, so to speak, within an organization, there will be antibodies that see that as a threat. And they do serve a valuable purpose. You have to recognize that. So you have to learn how to avoid them, how to win champions or supporters, defenders for yourself, how to basically create a stealth coating around yourself, maybe, so you're not seen as an invader, right, as a threat. So, and this is something I'm helping some people with who want to do this on the inside of a company or for themselves. More about that in a second. Number 6, I would say find a partner, a wingman, wingwoman, a mentor, somebody who can be on your journey with you, and this dramatically helps. I had somebody like this in my company. We basically would read books. We would share what we learned from the books with each other, so that multiplied our experience and our learning. We talked with each other. We were basically our own counsels and advisors with each other. We motivated and encouraged each other. So that's very powerful if you can do that. And the last thing is to have an exit plan. You've probably heard from entrepreneurs that having a business, you need to have an exit plan for your business, right? Maybe it's acquisition, maybe it's growth, maybe it's something else. But you need to think about this within an organization also. And it may not mean leaving the company. It might mean getting a promotion. It might mean handing off a project to somebody else. But it's good to have some kind of plan or vision for what you want your ideal state to be. Just like in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, begin with the end in mind, right? Because I'll just tell you that in the initial going, it's a big investment of time. You're not getting paid for it at first. You won't see results. And there's a risk of getting burned out if you don't figure out how to make it sustainable for yourself or have a good exit. Right, so what I recommend to you, if you want to start a journey like this is to take the first step, which means explore things within your company you can take advantage of. Maybe there's a formal program, formal mentoring program. Find someone else in the company maybe who you have a similar mindset with. You can also look for outside groups, like on LinkedIn. There's an entrepreneur exchange group on LinkedIn. So I recommend that. Just find other like-minded people with similar goals. And if you want to learn how to apply project management skills in a stealth manner, get in touch with me. After leaving my last company, I obtained my PMP, which is a professional project manager certification. And what I found from that was that everything we do can be a project. In fact, you can turn a goal into a project, apply project management principles, which gives you the skills there that's very valuable if you want to advance in your career. But you can have a project, start small, learn from it, and make it a success. So I'm on LinkedIn. I like to connect with everyone there. I'm also on Twitter, and I have a blog about project management success with an email address there. You can subscribe to it there. So thanks very much. I'll be happy to take questions and learn from everyone else here. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Appreciate it. That was very interesting. So I've been coming to AIAA and been in the career enhancement and workforce development committee for quite a while, and this subject of how do I become an entrepreneur and when do I do it, and do I have the genes for that, and all that always generates a lot of interest. So I will open it up to questions here. Before I do that, just one little housekeeping thing. These presentations will be put on the AIAA website after the conference here, so you can go get people's contact informations and pick off the nuggets that come out of this. And we would welcome you to continue to have a dialogue with the panelists, after you leave the conference here, sort of thing. So I would like to open it up to questions, because your questions are more interesting than mine. I do have a question or two if we get stalled a little bit. We have about 20 minutes-ish until the end of the session, so if you guys can occupy that amount of time, or we can end early if you want as well. So a few questions. Thank you.
First one, to me, starting a business, one of the big hurdles I see is just all the government regulation, things you need to do. How do you even know what you need to do, and how do you learn how to do those skills, the payroll, the licensing, the taxes, everything like that? How do you start that?
Well, I can say that a key way, talk to people that have done it, right? And there's always something new, like it was mentioned, SAM, which is the thing for being a government contractor. There's always new things too, so you may not get it all right the first time, but if you just talk to folks, how do you establish your rates? How do you know how much to charge? How do you know when to pay payroll taxes, or 1099 yourself and then you have to do self-employment taxes? All those kinds of things, people can at least give you a hint, a list of things to check into that you then can research. And it was pointed out that it is a big part of getting the business started, is getting all of those things in place, because anytime you apply for a proposal or try to get money, they want to know your DUNS number, they want to know your CAGE code, and you think, I wonder what that is. So then Google it, and then government websites have all the forms and all the how to fill out the forms. And I personally would recommend getting an accountant from the tax perspective, simply because that's not funny to mess around with. And for payroll, if you get a payroll service, that's also helpful, just because they take care of all of those details, that it's just one more thing to worry about. But yeah, I mean, that's why we're here today, is to help you understand those kinds of things, to make a list. I don't know, does anyone know where there is a list? But yeah, and once you start looking at one thing, you're filling out a form and it says, what's your whatever number, and you go, I don't know, should I have one of those? And then you Google that and find out you need to have one of those. So it really is a learning process. And what I found too, like Small Business Innovative Research, SBIRs, through, they can do it, DOD has them, but DARPA, Navy, but all of, and education, natural resources, all of those things have SBIR programs. those folks are fabulous with helping you. You know, you submit a proposal, and if it's a really great idea that they like, they will help you figure out how to become a viable government contractor if that's what you want to do. So it is astonishing. People are very happy to help you. You know, we're all doing this because we love it, and if you think it's what you want to do, we will do whatever we can to help you be successful. So ask.
Other panel members, comments?
I would just echo what Jane said, that my accountant was very valuable to me. She had done a lot of small businesses. In fact, she was personal accountant and accountant for the company I worked for. So I told her I'm starting on my own, what do I do? And she gave me a lot of that information. Got 80% of it done just by the accountant.
Yeah, I got my start really with an attorney, and the attorney recommended the accounting firm I went with, and then I went to the accounting firm, and between the attorney and accountant, I got 90% of the first steps done, but I already had the contacts in place for the writing proposals and the pursuit of funding, which pretty immediately you learn the things that you have to have in place for that.
But one thing you'll note is, like, you have to get an accountant, you have to get an attorney, you have to fill out all these forms, you're not getting paid to do that, and you're paying someone. So again, when you get started, you need to be certain this is what you want to do, because there's an investment in the beginning, time and money. And you'll eventually hopefully be rewarded for it, but be prepared. You can't just willy-nilly. Yeah.
Is there a first level ballpark figure? Is it a 10,000-hour thing? Is it a 50,000-hour thing? Is it a 5,000-hour thing?
It can be much less than that. I think the attorney that I used to set up my company, and I made her redo the company a second time after she had written everything up, because there were some things I wanted differently. I think she charged about $2,000, and it was basically an interview with the accountant. I don't think they charged anything for getting started, and then it was just a matter of a fee.
Pay by the drink sort of thing.
And there are a few other odds and ends, but you know, $2,000 or $3,000 you can get started.
Good. Additional questions, Sean?
You mentioned the importance of having a good network and connections. Has there ever been a time when this network failed to provide for you and you had to forge ahead, and how did you do so?
I guess I feel like I've always had a good network that doesn't go away. Sometimes there are funding cycles, and there are times when there's not funding in an area that I had hoped to be working, and that can be a challenge. So then I would look at announcements of where the government was looking for new ideas, and just basically scan those and see, is there another area that I can get something started in? Some people stick to one specific area. In my company, we have worked at least a half a dozen different areas, maybe 10 different areas that we've had funding in over the years, and most of the areas are repeat areas of repeat funding. But you know, I did some things with neural networks when I was at McDonnell Douglas, and an opportunity came up several years later to use them in a completely different way. But it was still neural networks, and it was still something that I could leverage from my past. Contacts, you can think of anybody you've known from school. You can think of anybody you meet at a meeting like this. Meetings like this are really valuable in terms of the people that you can encounter, and universities, colleges in the area that you're at. If you can go visit or meet with professors, talk about potential joint projects.
And stay in touch with folks. You know, first, don't only call people when you need them for something. And you know, be prepared to call and just talk to people and have nothing concrete come out of it, but just touch base every couple months, every couple weeks, whatever makes sense. And it's quite surprising how when you're just chatting with somebody, going to lunch, having a drink, whatever it may be, and they say, oh, you know, so-and-so's doing such and such, and you go, oh, really? And he goes, yeah, you know, as a matter of fact, they need help doing that. And you're like, oh, okay, do you have information? I'll call them. So everything is an opportunity. It's always an opportunity. But don't expect immediate feedback.
All right, thank you.
Other panel members want to comment on that? That's good. Another question from the audience? John?
Hi, can you guys talk about your best day and your worst day and how you got through and how you keep moving every day?
Let me start.
I'm waiting for that worst day. I haven't had one. I love what I do. People ask, what would you like to do for a living? I'm doing it because this is what I love doing. So I'm waiting for the bad day. When I've had days, I'd say the worst day in my career is when you find out you did something wrong and you send out a report, or there's something you really botched because you did math wrong, couldn't add 2 + 2. I haven't had anything quite like that lately. Best day is probably when, like these days, one of my biggest contracts is with the Air Force Test Pilot School where I'm on staff. And it's watching my students use, these are students who are, there are 20 to 24 students in a class, very diverse backgrounds. Some of them have never had a really strong engineering. They got technical degrees, but they may not know what a differential equation is, or Laplace transform is. And I'm teaching them feedback control systems and fly-by-wire flight controls. And I'll hear them use this kind of terminology at the end of the class, at the end of a 3-month period. And that's really rewarding to me, going, yeah, they got it. They got what I needed to get across to them. And it's 20 students, suddenly the light bulbs have gone on. That's my best day. That happens once every 6 months.
Alan?
I think for me, it's usually a technical breakthrough, or one of the people that I'm working with, or that are working for me, or even a student. I remember years ago visiting a professor at IIT that I was working with, and he says, I've got to go off to a meeting, spend some time with the student that's working on this project for us, and just visiting with the student, and the student starts out telling me what he's doing, and he's all excited about the work, which is great, you know, and he's explaining it to me, and he figures, well, this guy's in a company, so he doesn't know anything about this stuff, and I've got to explain it all to him, which was good. And he was very excited, and he still gets in touch with me and talks to me about jobs and interviews and potential changes in his career. But I explained some things to him on powered resonance tubes and the expansion of a jet coming out of a small tube, and how things were going to behave and what he should see in his experiment. And he just kind of stopped and looked back and thank you very much. You know, he didn't expect it, and so it's very nice, and I like doing that. I work with students, with faculty, and with other members in the company, and they will make a breakthrough and get a new idea. They'll be in advance in the technology that can be exciting. It can be a personal breakthrough of somebody understanding something that they didn't understand before. Those things are great. For me, I can get frustrated with some of the bureaucracy, some of the paperwork, or some of the contracting issues that do come up. You know, it's something that I accept that's part of the process. I know I have to deal with it, and I'm going to get through it. But it can be frustrating. It can be challenging. You have to redo some paperwork sometimes. Somebody doesn't like something, but that's really the worst of it for me.
Okay. Brett?
Well, my best day, I love to create things and release or ship things. So my best day is when I finish a project, and it's the best kind of projects are ones where it benefits other people, like a workshop or a new product or something that they can use to help themselves. Developing a course maybe for things like we're talking about here, and because I love to have things that have a bigger impact, right, and can help other people and just help them proceed and have success. The worst day is when I just get tied up in the everyday details of things that somehow became urgent but not important, right? And just didn't get to work on the big picture, the big ultimate vision. So that happens, but it's very important to set daily goals. Make sure you make a top list of things to do every day. And if you don't get to the worst day is when I never get to those things top on my list for some reason or another.
Jane?
Well, I guess I would echo all the same things. Like, the worst day is when you have to do all the accounting for the end of the year, or when somebody tells you they can't give you the subcontract because you don't have car insurance, and you say, but the company doesn't have any cars. How could we have insurance for those non-existent cars? And they say, but we must get your copy of your car insurance for your company vehicle. And I think, did I speak in a different language a moment ago? I mean, it's like some things are just so frustrating, and it's always the paperwork and the bureaucracy and the whatever, and so you have to take a different tact and say, okay, wait, let me start over. But the good things are when you are talking to someone and it's something that you're really excited about, and you're saying, I've been thinking, what if we could do something like this? And someone else says, I know somebody that's got money to do that. And you go, oh, yay. So, I mean, it's always getting your ideas out, getting someone who says, wow, that's a great idea, or I know somebody that can do that, or will help you do that, or wants to do that. That, to me, that's a great day.
Thank you. Okay, question? Thank you.
A lot of you describe your worst experiences as bureaucracy and that sort of thing. And I spent time in the high-tech startup world where most of the worst days are you're running out of money, the company's going to fail, sort of thing. Do you have any explanations for why you haven't had those problems?
I personally, I can respond to that. I wouldn't say that it's that I don't have those problems. It was that when I decided to venture out and start the company, my wife and I discussed it, and she was very accepting of having much less money than we used to have, and there was no target. There's no such thing as full employment, 40-hour weeks. It can happen, and it can happen for extended periods and extended numbers of years. But if projects run out, or if the level of funding drops down, we accept that we're going to go forward on that basis. The people who have come to work for me, most of them have come to work on the basis that we find projects, we find funding, and each person can be funded at a certain level. We reach an agreement about what work each person is going to do, what the level of funding is going to be from that project. If not enough projects come in, not in addition to myself, other people also see their income go down. There's one person, the most recent person that I've hired, I promised him that wouldn't happen to him, and he would always get a full 40-hour week, which he's getting. But that's different from our general business model, which is probably unusual, but it's one that's open to you if you believe enough in your work and you feel that you can ride the ups and downs.
The reason I think I haven't had is pure dumb luck. But I think also is that I've been very lucky. I mean, really have been lucky that with all the contacts I've had, there are times business has gotten slow. Now, I've only been on my own 5 years, but working for relatively small businesses have had the times when we've gone through those low periods. The early 90s was horrendous. So I called people I knew, said, hey, I'm running out of work. Oh, wait, okay, we've got $30,000, we need this done. Can you do it? Absolutely. So I've been lucky to have the contacts and the support to make sure that I never have the really, really down times. I've never had a time where I was less than fully employed. I've usually been 2,500 hours a year direct charge for 30 years now. So just very lucky.
Jane?
Well, I was just gonna say that, you know, one thing I've learned is that when you don't have work, if there isn't something pressing, take advantage of that moment, you know? Just say, okay, I see nothing on the horizon for a week or two. I'm waiting for somebody to get back to me. I'm going to ski every day. I'm going to do something. I'm gonna write a book. I'm going to, you know, and to keep looking forward. It's a bad day when you know you're running out of money and, and you see nothing. And it's also hard when you've been working on a project that's really, really fun, so you've had your head down and you lift your head up and go, oh no, there's nothing coming. You know, I should have looked for something 3 months ago. But you know something will come, so that I think is what kind of keeps you going, is that, yeah, maybe there'll be a week or two where it's a little slow, or maybe I should have started thinking about this a week or two ago, but you kind of know in your heart that it's going to come around. And so the key is to take advantage of the time off, because soon you'll be doing 60 hours a week going, man, I was doing nothing last week. Why didn't I do something fun?
Good. Brent, any comments?
Well, I think that's where being an entrepreneur has an advantage, because you have a full-time job already. So you have that downside protected. So then I think it's a great way to try it out for yourself first. See, can you earn business from within the company that wasn't assigned to you, right? See how it goes. So.
Okay, thank you. I think that we're at the top of the hour, so let's give the panel members a round of applause for their... Okay. And I would encourage you to go to the AIAA website and go look around the career enhancement workshop. We'll have all the presentations as well as the ones that were earlier. I recognize, Sean, you were here for a couple of the earlier ones, so all the presentations will be on there, not just this set here.
And just a few of my business cards, if anybody wants to contact me about any of this, feel free to take one. I didn't have a presentation.
Thank you.